Hello, my name is Jen Lee, and this presentation is called The Elephant in the Room: How to Keep Financial Stress from Impacting Your Business, Relationships, and Health. And I use a hashtag on here called Asking for a Friend, because a lot of times people don't want to talk about the types of problems I'm going to talk about in this discussion. And so I often get questions like, I'm asking for a friend, or someone told me, my boyfriend's dog told me, type things. And it's okay. Most of the stuff really regarding finances and money are very taboo topics in our society. So that's why I use the hashtag asking for a friend. So let's talk a little bit about me and a little bit about the presentation quick. So my name is Jen Lee. I am a lawyer, and I am a founder and consulting attorney now at Jen Lee Law Inc. We are a law firm in California with offices mostly in Northern California, but we practice in all districts in California. And I call myself a debt and credit strategy attorney because there are so many financial issues out there related to debt and credit. It's kind of an all-encompassing word. That's why I call myself a debt and credit attorney, and I train other attorneys on how to help people with debt and credit problems. So that's me, a little bit about me, a little bit about this presentation. So this presentation isn't necessarily talking about options for financial stress. What we often don't realize is that there are a lot of things that go into finances that affect every area of our life. And so I'm focusing in this presentation on how it affects productivity in the workplace and personally, how it affects our relationships, and how it affects our health, so we can come together and try to solve the underlying issues instead of continuously band-aiding things, hoping that we can figure it out. So that is the purpose of this presentation today for the elephant in the room. I do have Bernadette, and Bernadette had some headshots done, but she is my mascot as the elephant in the room. And I tell people that the room is full of elephants. And what I mean by that is 70% of Americans have a debt or credit problem of some sort. 70%. And no one wants to talk about it. You look on Facebook, you look on social media, and everyone is posting about their vacations to Hawaii and their nice cars they just bought. And no one, and rightfully so, people don't want to be, spreading bad news and things like that out there. I get that. But it can make it very isolating when you do have a debt or credit problem because you think no one else has it. So I encourage you, when you walk into a room, to imagine that 70% of the people in that room have some sort of financial issue. They're just not talking about it, to make yourself feel not quite so alone if you do have a problem. Now, not everyone has a debt or credit problem, but I just want people to feel like they're not alone and that there are options and solutions out there when we can recognize how it's affecting us. And so that's why I tell people that the room is full of elephants. It's literally full of elephants sometimes. I have a stuffed elephant I will take with me. I have two stuffed elephants so that I can say that the room is full of elephants, just because people don't want to talk about this topic. And I talk about it because I have found so many people that once they got the help they need to figure out what their options are, everything in their life gets better. Their productivity at work, their health, their relationships. And so that's what we're talking about today, is kind of like the backside of that. How is it affecting things, and what can you do about it? So the elephant in every room, no one wants to talk about debt. It's not fun. It's not one of those things where you just run around and like super excited to talk about. But money is the leading cause of stress. So having money as the leading cause of stress and something no one wants to talk about it makes it very hard to know what's right and what's wrong, because of all these bad information, misinformation that's floating around out there. Your Google search can lead to very different results sometimes. So no one wants to talk about it. I do talk about the elephant at work because I find that productivity, people don't often understand what the impact is on your productivity. And so there were tons of studies done. I did a white paper on this in 2017, 2018. And there were studies that basically showed that 80% of employees admit they deal with their financial problems at work. And that's the ones that admit it. So you get those surveys and you're answering them for your organization, your boss, your employer. 80% of people admitted on those surveys that they deal with their financial problems at work. This costs employers an average of $7,000 per year per employee. So if a company has 100 employees, that's $700,000 a year they're losing in productivity because of the employees' financial stress. If you have 1,000 employees, we're talking about millions of dollars. So I would like us as a society to focus on what is really going on with financial stress and how it's affecting all these different areas, because it really is a drain on the economy, productivity, and then personally. The cost of financial stress in the workplace, $300 billion per year. That's with a B, of how much financial stress is costing the workplace and the economy. 150 hours per employee per year. So the same study that showed that 80% of employees deal with financial problems at work showed that employees spend 3 hours per week on their own financial issues. And it may not be like a huge dramatic issue. It could be they're trying to get a mortgage and they have to submit, 10 years of bank statements or something like that. And they're trying to get that done at work. So it's not necessarily crisis constantly, but it's still dealing with their finances at work. Increase in workers' compensation and increase in medical insurance premiums. A lot of illness is attributed to stress, and financial stress is the number one stressor out there. And so that's causing increases to go up in all these premiums. And we feel that when we're looking for insurance and when we're looking for healthcare issues. I do think that there's a huge disconnect in society, and especially with employers and employees, but also overall. I'll tell you how this appears sometimes. So a lot of employers will institute financial literacy programs. And financial literacy programs are fantastic programs for people who are not in financial stress. Financial literacy teaches you how to avoid getting into financial stress. The problem with many financial literacy programs is it doesn't address how to get out of the problem that you're currently in. And so what that feels like to employees and to people who are out there in the workforce and not even in the workforce, it feels overwhelming and condescending, because they're telling you, oh, you should budget, you should contribute to a 401k, you should have health insurance. And you're thinking, I have $1 million in medical bills because my insurance didn't cover the things I needed it to cover. You're lecturing me on budgeting is I'm ready to give up. And so I'm trying to address that disconnect, that we really need to help on the front end and not be trying to tell people, oh, you should have done X, Y, and Z. Financial literacy is great for kids because if they can avoid ever having to talk to a debt and credit attorney or a bankruptcy attorney like I am, that's great. So I talk about this disconnect a lot because I feel like financial literacy gets all of these buzzwords and all of this rave reviews out there, but it's actually not helping the people that it needs to help. So moving on from productivity, going into relationships. So 44% of divorces are due to finances. And that's what my 44 on here is. And what people don't realize is not talking about money and not talking about finances before you get married, and then when you're actually married, leads to a lot of underlying tension that rolls over into other areas that you don't realize you're fighting about everything else because the finances aren't being talked about. So it's kind of, again, the elephant in the room, elephant in relationships. 75% of Americans are experiencing financial stress at least some of the time. This was a stat from 2019. I need updated ones from COVID because I think it's higher now. And 25% of Americans are feeling extreme financial stress. That's a big number. To have a quarter of the population under extreme financial stress is difficult. So in relationships, that shows up as a lot of fighting, a lot of disagreements about how money should be handled. Sometimes there's no talking about the money, and credit card is going one way, savings aren't happening, that kind of thing. Financial stress in a family does really bad things to kids' mindsets about money too. There are all kinds of studies about how you handle money is actually from your childhood, from when you're about 7 years old or earlier. So how you saw money and how you saw money being talked about. Um, and a good example of this, I use the crab pot theory, which is an economic theory, but I like it for how I have seen it play out in my office with generations. I don't like the crab pot. I don't like the results of it, but I like how it explains things. So the crab pot theory is when you have uh, a crab feed and you're gonna throw live crabs into boiling water because that's how you cook them. I don't do this, by the way. That would um, but when you throw live crabs into the water, one of them eventually starts climbing out and will get to the top of the pot. And what do all of the crabs, all of his friends and family members do that are in the pot? They pull him back down, basically to die with him, with the rest of them in this pot of boiling water. And how this plays out in economics is families will try to pull you back down to their level when they see you escaping, especially when it comes to finances. And it's not intentional. I am not advocating that people are out there intentionally trying to keep you. They are afraid of losing you. And so families will often pull you back down when you start to escape from whatever economic situation you're in. I see this with generations where I'll have grandparents in my office with their kids and then the grandkids, and they all have similar money issues and they're all trying to bail each other out. And so I have seen this illustrated over and over and over again. What children absorb about money is really important, and talking about it will help them succeed in the future and will also help you understand the words you use about money. Because I see a lot of psychological issues when it comes to thinking about money, and it causes all these other problems. Relationship problems, these are the things I see. I've had very interesting conversations over the years. Budgeting. Some couples don't budget at all. A lot of people don't budget, to be honest. I don't even like that word, but it is what it is. Hiding spending and secret accounts. Occasionally, I'll get one spouse in my office telling me what's going on, and then they'll say, okay, now you need to explain this to my husband or wife because they have no idea what our finances are, what's going on. Because one of them handles the finances and one of them's not involved. I highly recommend that you not have someone else handle your personal finances, even if it's a spouse. You both should be involved with it. And it also comes up when one of you gets sick or something happens that the other one knows what's going on. It makes it much more stressful when there's an illness if you have no idea where the finances are at, where the money's at, and how to do things. So I encourage you to have relationship discussions about money. Finally, the elephant in your health. This was the most fascinating thing to me when I started doing research on this about 10 years ago. And I have two numbers up here. So 70% of illnesses are attributed to stress, according to the APA. 76% of stress is finance. That's the number one source of stress is finances. So the headline on this press release, and I have linked it at the end in the resources, is your finances are literally making you sick. If you are already sick, your finances will drag you down even lower as far as your health goes. And so I am constantly telling people, find out what you can do. Don't keep all of this in because it just creates more health issues. Stress responses, I see a lot of these. I see fatigue, I see headache. And fatigue is an interesting one because I feel like we're all tired these days and you can't tell what it's related to, but we're stressed. But headaches, upset stomachs, muscle tension. I see a lot of clients who come into my office and their shoulders are really, really hunched up, and they don't realize it. They don't realize how tense they are. And as we start talking and going through, there are options. There are always options available to deal with all of this stuff. You can physically see people relax. And even just talking for 15 minutes, I've had clients tell me, I feel better just being able to talk to somebody. We keep it all bottled up, and it's really hard on our bodies. Immune system failure, I see that a lot with people who have some other underlying condition, maybe fibromyalgia, they could be a cancer patient, they could be have had a heart attack. And their immune system is really busy trying to deal with all of that. And the stress response from not just the finances, but everything going on is their immune system starts to have problems. And then the usual ones that you would think of is depression, insomnia, and anxiety. I had a lady 5 or 6 years ago. She was in her mid 70s, and she came to my office, had about $50,000 in credit card debt, and we ended up doing very short story, very long story short. We ended up doing a Chapter 7 bankruptcy to clear all of her credit card debt. She got to keep her house. She got to keep her car because of the way we structured everything. And she looked really beaten down when I met with her. And when you file for bankruptcy, 30 days after you file, you have a meeting with the trustee. And back then it would have been in person. And I met with her for that trustee meeting, and she looked 10 years younger. And she told me, before I filed, before I met you and knew my options, I hadn't slept in weeks. There was just no sleeping. She said, well, as soon as we filed and all those phone calls stopped and all that stress was gone, she's like, I've slept every night for 30 days, straight through the night. That was the best thing I could have heard, because that's really what that financial stress is doing to people. It's causing all of these other issues. And there've also been studies that show that financial stress is basically the equivalent of missing a full night's of sleep and operating like that every day. So it can be very debilitating. So what are the solutions? Because again, it's not why I'm doing this presentation like this is because I want people to see how it's affecting and what are the warning signs, what to look for out there. But my solutions for some of this is, first of all, talk about it. Let people know that it's okay to talk about. Let people know that it's okay to um, have a problem and find out what your options are. So that's the one thing that I would like to say, that it's okay to talk about this. Men understand that it's not all about financial literacy. Financial advisors are fantastic people, and they should, I would always encourage a financial advisor, but a lot of times the budgeting and the saving for retirement part has to wait until the crisis management is taken care of. And so a lot of this goes hand in hand with the financial advisor. Once you get through the crisis, then you can start planning for never getting back there again. If this speaks to you and something that you are really struggling with, get help, because it is so much easier to get help um, and find out what your options are than it is to sit and keep stressing about this over and over and over again. If this doesn't speak to you, you're good. You got your vacation home, everything's good, and you just want to help other people, help them. Do not make them feel like they are losers because they have financial problems. Anyone can have financial problems, honestly, and you never know how it feels until it happens to you. If you're running a business, and I say this about business and about personal, if you're running a business, run it like a business. Keep your business and personal bank accounts separate. Run your home finances almost like it's a business. Make sure you know what's going on, that things are being taken care of. Pay your taxes. I know that sounds like basic common sense, but it's really easy to get overwhelmed and not treat it like a business because you are scared of what's going on and you're overwhelmed. So just run things like a business. Some resources. I have The Elephant in the Room. It's a white paper I wrote back in 2017, I guess it was. It's been a while. And it's mostly about workplace productivity, but a lot of these issues roll over into personal too. There is a PricewaterhouseCoopers Employee Financial Wellness Survey that, again, I kind of rail on sometimes because they get to the end of their report and they're like, so we're going to implement more financial literacy problems, even though their survey said that people want actual help with their crisis that they're having. And then the APA study regarding financial stress and how that affects your health is on there. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second and turn on my video to wrap up here. So I always joke about asking for a friend, but honestly, the best thing you can do for yourself is to ask what your options are. The best thing you could do for your friends is to listen if they have a problem. and do not make people feel like they're abnormal for having financial issues, because honestly, you're probably more abnormal if you don't have financial issues. If you have problems and you don't know what to do, turn to your trusted resources. Turn to an attorney that you know, accountant, organizations that you're in. A lot of these places have great resources. Call us. We're happy to walk through and talk about options on things. So don't let the elephant in the room scare you. And if you are willing to help other people, I appreciate that as well. So I'm Jen Lee, a founder and consulting attorney at Jen Lee Law. Thank you.